I'm a little bit nervous today. So not long ago, I filled up with diesel in my blue W123, and the fuel warning triangle came on after fueling, which, if you understand how the fuel level sending unit in the tank works, there's two resistance wires and a float that gives you your gauge reading. At the very bottom of that, there's two contacts that when the float hits the bottom, it illuminates the warning triangle. So basically, you should only ever have the warning triangle on if the gauge is bottomed out, because the float will be all the way at the bottom, unless there's something conductive in your fuel, such as water. After I fueled up, we're on the way home, and the warning triangle illuminated. I limped the car home with the warning triangle on, and I'm worried how much water has gone through stuff because the car isn't running good anymore. I had had such problems with poor quality fuel in the past that I ended up installing this giant goldenrod filter here. So basically, I just tapped in to the inlet to the lift pump. So I've also got this little guy, which is just an additional strainer in case the goldenrod doesn't catch anything, or I can bypass the goldenrod. But my fuel line from my tank, just connected a rubber hose to that, which runs up to the inlet on the goldenrod through a 3/4 inch NPT to 1/2 inch NPT PEX fitting. This works like a nice little barb fitting for these. Then out from the goldenrod filter into my little screen, and there. That way, this big giant container slows the fuel passage down, and so if there's any water or contaminants in there, they'll tend to settle out to the bottom. I don't actually think I have any filter element in there. This is basically just like a big sediment bowl was my idea, and that's why I have this screen right here. And then of course our stock secondary filter here, which I'm using up my supply of the WK716 filters instead of the 2 micron mod that I did, because I wanted to use up my stock of these stock filters basically. So I'm going to drain this, and this into various containers. I'm going to put this one, the secondary spin on, into a glass container because I really want to see if there's any debris in here, because that would be the last place it will catch before it goes into the injection pump. So if we were getting a rough running issue from water contamination or something else, this filter is going to be our one that tells us something. So let's get these filters off and drained. Go. Oh, almost lost my wrench to the radiator. Spin this guy off. Losing a little bit of diesel here. At least it does smell like diesel. Oh, there's some goop in here though. Look at the top of this filter. See how that looks like almost rusty? Ew. Yeah, okay. Contaminated fuel. Look at this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this in the sun. I'll try and get some shots maybe in the shop, but we need a new spin on. That filter is probably plugged up. It could be low fuel pressure was causing these problems because of the filter being clogged. So let's get a fresh filter put on there. But in the meantime, I'm going to drain this little guy that I've got right here with a mesh screen in it. Let's see how much gunk this has in it. Ooh. Yeah, look at this. Look at all the garbage in here. Yeah. Yep, this is our problem. I'll get some brake clean and wash that screen out, but look at the trash down in there. Yep, that's our problem. And now our goldenrod filter. Ooh, yep. Let's pour that into here. Oh, look at that. We got a batch of bad diesel right from the store. Wonderful. Okay, let's get this stuff cleaned up. Some brake clean, some rags. We'll clean up all these filters, get a fresh spin on put on here, and see if the car behaves a little bit better. Yeah, there's a little water in that goldenrod filter. It's doing its job though, catching it before it gets into the engine, and just the other goop and stuff is clogging stuff up. That's good, that's exactly what we want. That's cleaner. It doesn't need to be perfect because this is catching the first round of garbage. Oh, we need our O-ring back on there. That would be important. Okay, get this thing put in here. Fresh spin on. All right. Now we've got to get this whole system primed again, which probably the easy way to do that is going to be to crack the outlet of our lift pump here. So we've got somewhere for the air to go. And then we'll pressurize our spin on. Here our overflow valve relieving pressure. So we've got fuel all the way through everything. Let's remove all our tools and stuff and start the car up and see how it runs. Little throttle. You can overlook how disastrously loud my air cleaner vibration is. We're running pretty smooth now. Got a little rock to it, but I don't always have that. It runs better now, it's not making weird noises. Let me cut this off. Well, we're running smooth again now. I took the car around the block, got it all the way up to temperature, and it's running great. It's got the power back on the low end like it had before, and it's smooth. When I got home, there's no weird rattles, no weird noises, aside from my obnoxiously loud air cleaner bracket, which we'll get to. I'll fix that. I've got the stuff. I just need to find the time to do it. So I think this has fixed our immediate problem. However, with the fuel that we got from that station potentially being contaminated and having a full tank of it, we could drain that whole tank, or I could use something like this. I'm a big believer in this BioBoard JF stuff. This is a antibacterial, antimicrobial. If you've heard of diesel fuel growing algae, this stuff kills that algae. Now, it'll plug your fuel filters when it does it, but if there's any water in your diesel, it will tend to make that microbial, bacterial, algae growth, which will cause you all sorts of heartache. So a little dose of this stuff every so often goes a long ways. So I'm going to treat my tank with this and run the car for a little while. And if I need to, I can change fuel filters again. Not a big deal, but hopefully this gets us back on the road for another 200,000 miles. Thanks for watching.